Quadrajet. I don't ever procrastinate. This chaos. Morning, guys. A little different today. I was driving the Suburban yesterday. We took my dad and I took a drive to go get some lumber for one of his projects. About an hour 10 into the trip, truck started running terrible, bucking and kicking and missing. I think it might be vapor locking, or the fuel might be boiling in the carburetor. I had this problem last year. Did it when it was hot. I've done a few things. I insulated the fuel line. I did this spring, and I replaced the fuel pump. And that pretty much eliminated my problem. I thought I had it fixed. Now, the catch is, yesterday when we were driving, we stopped and got gas. And then it was about 40 minutes after we got gas that the thing started running like shit. So I might have got gas with water in it, or bad gas or something like that. I'm not sure. I have a rebuild kit for this carb. I've had it for a while. This carb does have a little off-idle stumble and kind of between gears. It always kind of has. So I'm gonna pull the carburetor off today, and I'm gonna go through it and clean it, walk you through that process. And if nothing else, you know, maybe bad gas, maybe that new fuel pump I put in took a shit. Maybe there's junk in the carburetor. You know, I don't know, maybe something got past the filter. Let's go along for that ride. It's gonna be fun. Look at all the vacuum lines and emissions garbage on this thing. I have a few tools laid out. Got my ladder set up so I can get in and out of this beast pretty easy. It's one thing about these old trucks is you just climb in. Okay, so gonna unhook the throttle cable here, unhook all these vacuum lines, and then there's 4 bolts that hold this carburetor on. This will pop right off, and we'll take it downstairs, clean a workbench, clean an area really nice and tidy, put some cardboard down, and then I'll break into this thing. So I'll bring it back in just a minute. Hey, I just wanted to show you guys this tool. I've had these for years and years and years. It's a really great tool if you're ever doing stuff like this. There's these special pliers, and what they're for is stuff like this. So sometimes stuff like this can be kind of hard to pull off. It's hard to do left-handed with looking through the camera. But here, see what that does? That pulls that out. So that separates your hard line from your hose. That's nice when you're in a tight spot and you're trying to pull a hose. I mean, those do come in handy. And boy, I don't remember where I got these. That's all they say on them. So don't know. Okay, so I pulled all the vacuum lines, fuel line, brake booster line back here, this guy. Anytime you're doing a fuel line like this, guys, you always want to put a backup wrench on these guys, because you'll spin this and you'll twist this line right off, or you'll break this, cause problems. The fuel filter on the Quadrajets is right here in this fitting. It's a tiny little filter. So another tip too, when you're pulling bolts out like this, I always go around the carburetor, just because I'm a butterfingers, and if you drop that carburetor down that intake, that could be a really bad day. If you're lucky, you can fish it out with a magnet. Let's see. Look at that gasket's just stuck on there. It's been on there. Let's see. Carburetor off. Quadrajet. Yeah, I don't see anywhere where it looks like it was leaking, but okay, I'm gonna cover this up with a rag so no shit falls in there, and then take this thing downstairs, clean her up. Okay, so I just kind of did a initial clean on this guy real quick. Wire brushed the main gunk off. I'm gonna spray it down with some carb clean. I'm gonna give it a quick spray with some carb clean and or brake clean. Just get it rinsed off a little bit, and then I'll take that downstairs and set up a workstation and clean it. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, down in the messy basement. Kind of pull this thing apart. So first thing I'm going to do is pull these screws, pull this top off. And actually, first thing I'll probably pull the kit out of the box and inspect it. The thing about these kits, once you open these, you cannot return them. Once you cut this plastic, no returns. Now, I doubt I can return this anyways. I bought this 7/28/2021. Yeah, so 11 months ago I bought this kit to rebuild the carb, and now I'm getting to it. I don't ever procrastinate. Filter's pretty clean. Oh, that stinks. I'm not sure. I feel like the older Quadrajets had flathead screws, but I could be wrong. I haven't rebuilt one of these since the 90s. Boy, these aren't very tight. I'm wondering if this carburetor has been messed with before, because these, I think, are your idle circuits here. And if I remember correctly, I thought these had anti-tamper caps on them, and this carburetor doesn't. This thing could have been apart at some point. I don't know that. If that is the case, it was probably quite a while ago, because it's pretty dirty. Got the accelerator pump linkage here, and a choke pull-off linkage over here. Yeah, I don't know what that serves, but we'll put it back. Let's see, is that everything? Is there any? I think that's all of them. Okay, so we got that linkage there, and this linkage here. Sorry about shaking the camera. That gasket's definitely stuck on there. All right, so I found 2 more screws in here in the darkness you can't see. These little guys, I miss those. So now I gotta figure out how to get this top off. I gotta get this linkage off. I read the directions, of course, and it says just drive the pin out far enough just to get that linkage out. So don't have to drive it all the way, like my toy hammer. That's my niece's hammer, but it's perfect for this. There we go. Okay. That's on the fast hole. I think they should come off now. Let's see what else we're hanging up on. Oh, I put screws back in it to tap that out. Probably should remove those. Huh? Kind of wanted to hold that top in place while I tapped on that thing. I didn't want that top shuffling over and, you know, damaging the metering rods or anything like that. Let's see. What else we got? Oh, that piece of linkage there. There we go. Okay, there we go. There's the top of the carburetor. So I think these are called emulsion tubes, if I remember correctly. And then these are your metering rods, as are these here. And then there's the accelerator pump there. I'm not sure what that is. We'll dig into that in a minute. Oh, is my float fucked up? Well, this thing really does have a very small fuel bowl compared to like a Holly or a Carter or something, or a Edelbrock. Okay, there's a little spring here. See if I can remember where all this shit goes when I go to put this back together. That's the float. Your needle and seat is right here in this area. A couple springs, some jets and stuff. Here's your primaries, and then these are your secondaries. That's why it's called spread bore. See how small these are and how big that is. Okay, I'm going to dig into this a little further, and I'll be back. I got the top off. I got all my pieces laid out, organized. I was taught this by an old guy back in the 90s. This guy, Ron, up in Alaska, super cool guy. He showed me how to rebuild a carburetor. He said, take all the parts out and lay them in the order you remove them. And then when you go to put them back, then you'll know where they go. That works for anything you're working on. It's a great method, you know, set out some clean rags and have a nice clean work area, unlike this chaos, and set all your stuff out in the order you remove it if you don't know how it goes. And then instead of just, you know, if you throw everything in a coffee can and you wait a week, you might forget how it goes. So just a tip there. I'm going to check this float level. This float looks kind of like chewed up, maybe from the ethanol gas. That's as high as it goes. I feel like that float should sit higher. I'm going to crack open the package and we'll look at the measurement where the choke's supposed to be. There's a diagram here. And then I'm going to set the float. I'm going to set the float level, or just get an idea. And then I'm going to take this all apart a little more and clean it. Check this out. Here's the float, right? Can you see that? I think the ethanol gas, it feels like kind of like a foam of some sort. And this was real flaky on top. So I'm wondering if some of this shit came off the float and maybe plugged a couple of the jets or something like that. And this float was definitely set pretty low. I haven't quite got it adjusted right yet. I don't think I'm gonna finish this tonight. I just wanted to get apart and look at it. I forgot to film. I got busy jamming on this and forgot to film. So let me bring you up to date here. So I got this all apart, took the base plate off down here. There's a gasket there. Cleaned all that, cleaned this all out, blew it all out with air. And I did get a new float. I can't remember if I showed you or not. This float is starting to deteriorate. And there was some material in the bowls and stuff, and there was definitely a little bit of gunk in some of the jets. I managed to find that. Not too difficult, actually. I actually went to a parts store. There was an old guy, and he knew what I was looking for. He didn't ask me if it was four-wheel drive. He didn't ask me questions that don't apply. I said, I need a float for a Quadrajet. And he goes, what year truck? And we figured it out. Nice to know there's still a few parts guys out there. Anyways, I'm going to button this top back on and just get it all back together, see if it works. So that's the plan. Well, guys, it's about an hour later. Yeah, so I'm back where I was. I got it all together, got everything lined up. This accelerator pump pushes up on the gasket and it pulls the metering rods up. So you have to hold this down and then try and line these guys up, and you can't see them. And then the top had a couple metering rods in it that you had to line up at the same time. And I finally found a Torx that was small enough to pull the assembly out right there, make it a little easier. But I did have it all together, and I was testing it, and the accelerator pump would stick down and it wasn't coming back up. And then pull it back up, and it had a lot of friction on it. I'm like, well, that's no good. So I took it all apart, and the brand new accelerator pump, this is what happened. I got that thing all back together. Note to self, don't leave your tools outside in the south because they get rained on. This is not the West Coast. It doesn't go months and months without raining where you don't have to worry about that. You have to think and put your tools away. Remember that, kids. Well, let's put this thing on. Still got to clean the intake gasket. Actually, I think I'm going to pull the alternator out, double wrap this fuel line. This fuel line has some insulation on it, but I think I'm going to wrap some more insulation on that. So let me do that, and then I'll throw the carb on. Okay, I got the alternator popped off. That's pretty easy. Couple bolts, couple wires. Now you can see the fuel pump and the fuel line right there. It does run really close to the block. If I still have heat soak issues, I'll get a new piece of fuel line and come out here, bend it, come up and away from me. I should probably look at the camera. Come up and look away. Bend it away from the engine and try that if this doesn't work. I don't know if I mentioned it. I did find the fuel filter has like a little bypass plunger with a little spring built into it or something. And I think that was jammed and might have been blocking fuel flow into the carburetor. So I wonder if that was the issue. I don't know. We're going to do all this stuff, put it back together, and then see if it worked. Okay, so I got this all buttoned back up, carburetor on, alternator back in, fuel line double insulated, all the vacuum lines hooked up, that lovely mess. I took a couple pictures before I took this apart, and I'm glad I did, because I had this vacuum line in the wrong place, and there's another one down here I couldn't find the hookup for. And because I had the photos, I was able to figure it out. Let's go start this thing and see if it lights on fire. It's gonna take a second for the fuel pump to fill the float bowl, so it's not gonna start right away. Morning, guys. Trying to get out here before it gets hot. Yeah, you saw I left off the other day. I put the carburetor back on the truck. It still runs like shit. So still stumbles and does a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna try the fuel pump, even though this fuel pump's only a few months old, but it was doing the exact same behavior before I changed the fuel pump. and then when I changed the fuel pump, that stopped that behavior. And what it was doing was bucking and kicking, losing all kinds of power. And the carburetor needs to come back off anyways. It idles high. I think the throttle blades might be hanging open. I'm trying to figure that out. Didn't really get anywhere. I guess it did run a little better before it started bucking and kicking. It just felt a little smoother and better, but the idle was high. So yeah, this is, sometimes working on cars is pretty damn frustrating, but just walk away when you're frustrated and come back to it when you're not. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I think it's supposed to be 100 today, so I'm trying to get this done before it gets hot. It's already 75 and super humid out here, so let's get going. Yay. Okay, got the fuel pump changed out, taking it for a little test drive. So far it seems good, but it's not super hot out yet, and I've only been driving for about 10 minutes. If it's hot out, it happens pretty quick, the bucking and kicking and whatnot, and then if it's not super hot out, it may take an hour or more. So I'm gonna drive around a little bit, cross my fingers. I think it was the fuel pump. The carburetor still needs to come back apart. It has a little lean stumble on tip in, which means when you come onto the throttle right off, cruise, it kind of stumbles for a sec. It's kind of always had that, and I think that's the accelerator pump. And I showed you in an earlier video, the new accelerator pump was shit. So I got a replacement, so I'm gonna take the carb back off and change that out, and then try and figure out vacuum leak. It might be the throttle blades hanging open. We'll see. So I'll get back to you guys. I don't know, do you have to be quiet? I don't think you have to be quiet. No. What are we doing?
We're on an adventure.
Hi guys, so it got hot. It's like 90 degrees and I just took the truck for a pretty good little test drive. Driving it kind of hard, and the stumbling problem's gone, so I'm pretty sure it was the fuel pump after all. The fuel pump that was in there, I probably already said this, the fuel pump that was in there was only 3 or 4 months old. These fucking garbage aftermarket parts are ridiculous. It does run better than it did before I rebuilt the carburetor. It's definitely smoother, the floor barrels work better, so that's good. I feel good about that. These kind of things can be a little frustrating. Sometimes you're chasing your tail, but you just got to stay diligent and work your way through it. Where are we?
We're in a whole old dam.
We're on a Saturday adventure with my niece. This is an old mill of some sort. Look at this old equipment in here. I don't know what this is. Some kind of sifting thing for separating stuff or something. Pretty cool. Made with wood. Look at this. It's got some stamping on it. Oh, there's your RPM. Oh, here's your... Oh yeah, look at that. Huh. I don't know what that is, but it's cool. Can you see that? What? You can go back up. Just stay out of the road, okay? You can go down on the rocks and go around if you can't climb up. You think you can do that? I think you can do it. Just watch your step and use your hands if you need to, okay? Yeah, it was all run. This is all run off water at some point. It looks like the water came through here under the building, and I assume there was a water wheel here at some point, maybe back in this area. I'm not sure. Pretty cool though. This old concrete, old timbers. Very, very interesting. You can tell when concrete is super old before plywood existed. You can see kind of the slat marks in the forms. So, and then like this looks like a little more modern, shoring up. But look at the old foundation, is basically just rocks stacked with mortar. It's just so wild how they used to build shit. Yeah, this was some kind of... No, maybe the water didn't come under here. Yeah, look at the old pulley systems. These timbers are huge. Try to light it up a little bit. I think it's kind of boarded off. I don't want to press my luck. I just want to check it out. So just a little short thing we did today. Worked on the truck. See if I can walk out of here without killing myself. Took the carburetor back off, went through it all, and then got that all reassembled. It's working good now. It's idling about where it should. The stumble's gone. Choke works, everything's working. The off idle stumble's gone from the new accelerator pump. Figured take it for a little test drive, take the niece out, show her some old history. She was a little scared, I don't think, just because the rocks and, you know, she's not used to this kind of stuff, but that's why I want to take her out and show her stuff, show her the world a little bit. What do you think?
Crazy.
Not too far from my parents' house. Really interesting. Definitely pretty old, and then, you know, kind of renovated over the years, but now obviously no longer in use. I didn't want to poke around too much. It does have no trespassing signs. I try to respect that. But look at this. I think this was at some point. Now I don't know if this was the original use, but at some point I think they made dog food here, or cat food or whatnot. It was obviously converted to electricity at some point, but originally this was all run off the river. So I'm really curious about the history. If any of you guys know the history on this place, let me know. It's in North Carolina. If anybody sees this, maybe, and you know some history on this, let me know, because I'm definitely curious. I love this kind of old stuff. So that was our little adventure today.
Yeah.
It's fun. We took the truck for a test drive. Seems like the carburetor is working good. Rhiannon wanted to go. I had been down here once before, so I thought I'd show her this.